Stalingrad, Soviet Union. Autumn, 1942. A city already broken by bombs becomes the stage for decisions made far from the front lines. Orders are written in warm offices and carried into frozen streets. By the time they are obeyed, thousands of lives are already accounted for. In 1942, Stalingrad was no longer just a city. It was a symbol, a name spoken with weight in both Berlin and Moscow. Located on the Volga River, it was a critical industrial center and a key transportation hub. Factories lined the riverbanks. Rail lines fed the southern front. Losing the city meant more than losing ground. It meant losing momentum. The German summer offensive had already pushed deep into Soviet territory. Army Group South advanced eastward with speed and confidence. Stalingrad became its objective not because of its streets, but because of its name and position. The city carried Stalin's name. Its capture would echo far beyond the battlefield. By late summer, the Luftwaffe reduced much of the city to rubble. Residential blocks collapsed into dust. Fires burned for days. Civilians fled when they could. Many stayed because they had nowhere else to go. Factories continued operating even as shells fell nearby. Production did not stop. Orders did not allow it. The Soviet command faced a familiar problem. Retreat meant survival, but retreat also meant defeat. In July 1942, Order Number 227 was issued. Its message was clear. Not one step back. The order forbade unauthorized retreat. Blocking detachments were formed behind the lines. Their task was simple. Stop withdrawals. By force if necessary. This command did not come from the streets of Stalingrad. It came from far away. It assumed discipline could replace exhaustion. That fear could replace coordination. That sacrifice could be calculated. On the ground, the situation was already chaotic. Units were under strength. Communications failed constantly. Maps no longer matched reality. Streets changed hands multiple times a day. Soldiers fought from cellars, stairwells, and ruins. There were no clear front lines. Only fragments of resistance. New formations were rushed into the city with minimal training. Many soldiers arrived without proper weapons. Some were told to collect rifles from the fallen. Ammunition was limited. Food was scarce. Winter was approaching. Commanders received strict instructions. Hold positions at all costs. Do not withdraw. Do not regroup without permission. Reports sent upward softened the truth. Losses were underreported. Conditions were minimized. The logic of the orders was rigid. The reality of Stalingrad was not. As the fighting intensified, the gap between command and consequence widened. Decisions made in headquarters traveled slowly through broken chains of command. When they arrived, they met men already at the edge of collapse. And still, the orders remained unchanged. By September 1942, Stalingrad had become a battlefield measured in meters. Every factory hall, every ruined apartment block, every staircase became a separate objective. German forces pushed forward with artillery and air support. Soviet units responded with proximity. They stayed close. Too close for bombs. Too close for maneuver. This tactic slowed the advance but increased the cost. Casualties mounted daily. Replacement units crossed the Volga under constant fire. Many boats never reached the shore. Survivors climbed into a city already saturated with death. Orders continued to arrive. Hold specific buildings. Retake lost positions immediately. Counterattack regardless of losses. The chain of command demanded action, not evaluation. Failure was defined as hesitation. Officers on the ground faced impossible choices. To obey orders meant sending exhausted men into hopeless assaults. To delay meant risking accusations of cowardice or treason. Some followed instructions exactly. Others interpreted them loosely. A few tried to protect their men by bending the rules. Blocking units operated behind the front lines. Their presence was known. Soldiers understood the consequences of withdrawal. Fear worked, but it also broke cohesion. Units fought because they had nowhere else to go. German intelligence observed the pattern. Soviet resistance was relentless but costly. Entire regiments disappeared in days. Yet the line did not collapse. The city absorbed lives and time. As autumn turned colder, conditions worsened. Wounded soldiers froze before reaching aid stations. Medical supplies ran out. Evacuation across the Volga became nearly impossible. Ice formed on the river. Boats moved slower. Targets became easier. Despite this, higher command issued new directives. Increase pressure. Launch local offensives. Maintain constant engagement. The belief remained that endurance alone would decide the outcome. Statistics replaced faces in reports. Losses became numbers. Numbers became acceptable. The human margin was consumed without acknowledgement. For the soldiers in the ruins, time lost meaning. Days blurred together. Sleep came in minutes. Hunger was constant. Orders were followed mechanically. The fatal flaw was not brutality alone. It was distance. Decisions were made by those who did not see the streets, did not smell the smoke, did not count the dead after each failed assault. By November, the city was barely recognizable. Stalingrad still existed on maps, but on the ground it was an expanse of shattered concrete and silent machinery. And still, the orders continued. The turning point came not in the ruins, but beyond them. In November 1942, the Red Army launched Operation Uranus. The objective was not the city itself, but the flanks surrounding it. German Allied units held these positions. They were weaker, less equipped, less prepared. The counteroffensive succeeded with speed and surprise. Encirclement followed. The German Sixth Army found itself trapped inside Stalingrad. For Soviet command, this was vindication. The losses within the city were reframed as necessary. The orders that had consumed thousands were now justified by outcome. Inside the encirclement, conditions collapsed. Supplies dwindled. Ammunition ran low. Wounded soldiers filled cellars and basements. German command issued its own fatal orders. Hold the city. Await relief. Do not break out. Two sides now mirrored each other, both bound by commands that denied reality. Soviet units continued attacks within the city. Even as victory became likely, assaults did not stop. Positions were taken that no longer mattered. Lives were spent where time would have sufficed. The winter deepened. Temperatures fell below freezing. Movement slowed. The city fell silent except for gunfire and artillery. When surrender finally came in February 1943, the scale of loss became visible. Hundreds of thousands were dead or captured. Entire formations no longer existed. Names remained only on paper. But the focus of history narrowed. Stalingrad became a symbol of triumph and defeat. A turning point. A legend. The orders themselves faded into abstraction. The men who obeyed them did not. Many of those who died were never identified. Bodies remained under rubble. Records were incomplete. Families received no answers. The command decisions were archived, filed, classified, reduced to footnotes. The battle was remembered. The cost was not. The battle ended. The guns fell silent. Snow covered what was left of the city. Stalingrad did not disappear. It was rebuilt. Brick by brick. Street by street. The ruins were cleared. Factories returned. New buildings rose where thousands had fallen. The war moved on. So did history. The battle became a symbol. A turning point. A name repeated in textbooks and speeches. But the orders remained in the shadows. They were stored in archives. Typed on fading paper. Stamped. Signed. Filed away. The men who obeyed them were harder to file. Many were never identified. Their bodies were buried under rubble. Under ice. Under later construction. Some names survived only as numbers. Some not even that. Families waited. Letters stopped arriving. Silence replaced certainty. No monument recorded every decision. No plaque listed every command that sent men forward. No memorial explained how distance turned judgment into abstraction. The city remembered victory. It did not remember instructions. Those orders were never tried. Never questioned publicly. They were absorbed into success. Losses were accepted after the fact. Justified by outcome. Protected by silence. Time passed. Witnesses grew old. Documents gathered dust. What remained was a simplified story. A city that stood. An enemy that fell. The space between those facts was ignored. Thousands vanished inside that space. They were not defeated individually. They were consumed collectively. By directives that allowed no retreat. By commands that allowed no pause. History does not forget Stalingrad. It repeats its name endlessly. But it forgets how many orders never reached the people who paid for them. And how many reached them too well. The streets are quiet now. The Volga flows as it always has. Nothing on its surface shows what was carried away. Nothing marks where obedience ended and survival should have begun. Only records remain. Incomplete. Silent. The battle is remembered. The decisions are not. And the thousands condemned by them remain where history rarely looks. If this story mattered to you, consider subscribing. More forgotten history is coming.